snatched back our narrative. We took the eyes away from the television screen and they noticed it in the ratings.
We took the eyes away from the television screen and they noticed it in the ratings.
And we started rocking with these content creators. These different cats with different personalities, man. We vibe not only on the topic of Knicks, but we vibe with the personalities because we see our brothers, our cousins, our sisters. We see us in y'all.
A lot of people out of there. J. Will,
This bitch
out of there. I can't wait for Malika
This bitch
Andrews to be out of there, but she's staying. That's a whole different agenda. But really quickly, before I sign out of this and begin to close this thing down, all right, I want to talk about why I think New York Knicks fans are responsible. Boy, look, y'all got me on point. That's my last point. Nah, son, nah, you wildin'. How the New York Knicks fans sparked the ESPN purge. Listen to me closely. Follow me on this. Because I talked about in one of my first 3 videos ever here on Knicks Daily. It wasn't called Knicks Daily, it was called Sheer Brilliance Knicks, SB Knicks. Shout out to the SB community, who's now the KD community, Knicks Daily community. I said it. I said the reason why I created this channel, because it was the pandemic, right? Y'all remember when the pandemic hit, the league shut down, okay? The league shut down. We didn't know what was happening. The world was crazy. The world shut down. And then the league decided to come back and have a tournament to try to finish the season. And they called it the bubble. And they invited certain teams, and they weren't really that fixated on the records. So every team almost had an opportunity to be invited. And the New York Knicks were not invited to the bubble. All right? And then that bubble was played, and then it's all of that, right? So the New York Knicks weren't allowed to be in that tournament. Me personally, I didn't want to watch none of that ish. My team wasn't in it. Y'all chose not to invite us to this bubble and show at least that we could try to compete and show some things. So I ain't watching your product. So here I am in the pandemic, unable to go to work. What do? Where do I find content for my team? So here I start scouring YouTube. And when I started scouring YouTube, like many of you did, because you didn't want to watch this bubble where our team wasn't playing, so you hop on YouTube. That was the thing. It seemed like, all right, let me go here and let me see if I can pull up some old highlights. And then I discovered, Nothing But Knicks and Seminole Boys doing phenomenal work. And they talking about the New York Knicks. And then I discovered Knicks Fan TV and CP and them boys going in, and many others. So once you started watching those content creators, it led you to other ones. And now we got our fix.
Sensational.
Now we got our fix. All right. And ultimately what started happening was it caught on like wildfire. Knicks fans started realizing, oh man, we got shows and they're talking about the Knicks. And then CP started getting former Knicks on his channel. X-Man was on the channel. I think that was one of his first guests, man. I shared that video so much. So you telling me we don't got to watch ESPN? They ain't even showing you former Knicks players. So not only are we looking at all New York Knicks content, things that we're not seeing on major media because they don't want to cover us. They say we bad, so why show time, to a bad team? We go to YouTube and we get direct, uncut, concentrated product. That's some New York shit. I ain't always had a shirt and tie on. One there's New York, stand up. Strong Island, stand up. Right? So, when we started going to YouTube, New York Knicks fans, we were consuming the content there. All right. And then something crazy happened. The New York Knicks started changing the front office. They hired Leon Rose. And then Leon Rose switched the coach out and then hired Tom Thibodeau. And then Tom Thibodeau and Leon Rose, they accumulated their team. Leon Rose put together a real good, solid team. Tom Thibodeau put together a real good, solid team. Had Mike Woodson on the staff. Had his hard driving style, had a player who could come behind him and still teach the game and still hold them accountable, relatable. He brought in his vets from Chicago. Oh, it started looking up. And then he had Coach of the Year in his first year. And the New York Knicks made the playoffs that year. And we spilled into the streets after one game. And we caught the eyes of the NBA world with that. We returned back from the pandemic. It was the livest fan base in the league, to the point that your boy, your king, wanted to tweet about us. Oh, their energy in the garden is live. Yeah, Ninja, you could have had it. But it was at that moment. It was at that moment and after that they noticed there was a dip in their ratings. The largest market in the league is starting to show improvement. They're starting to win, and our numbers didn't go up. What's happening? The New York Knicks fan base is not consuming your product on ESPN. We're not. And they recognized it in the numbers. They saw it. So I tell you, the first thing they did, they removed some of the personalities that was part of their major programming. They moved Kellerman out. They moved off RJ. They moved off Beetle. They hired those personalities to trash the Knicks. They did. And I'm not crazy. I'm telling you, I saw it and I said it while it was happening. Because they knew that they needed to capture some of that audience. They wanted some of those New York eyes. Because now New York looked like they're projecting upwards. So ultimately what they started doing was they was just like, oh, listen, okay, where are those views going? We see they're going to YouTube. It seems like all of the Knicks fans are on this thing called YouTube. All right, so what's YouTube doing? And credit to SNY. Because SNY saw it also. All of these networks, and interestingly enough, I mentioned it to my best friend. My best friend's brother works at CBS. And I told him I created a YouTube channel, and I told him what I saw. I said, New York Knicks have an opportunity to have a voice. And we don't got to go through the media and wait for them to talk good about us. We can create our own shows and talk good about our own team. And he said, Shia, you're not crazy, bro. You're going to see a shift. The shift is they've noticed that a lot of people after the pandemic is consuming their entertainment through digital means. They're getting rid of their cable packages. They're finding everything they need on YouTube. Shit, what's crazy is you doing the right thing. You're hopping on YouTube. That is the new wave. And I'm telling you this much, your paranoia is not paranoia. What they're going to do next is they're going to start taking talent from YouTube and putting it on their websites, on their major platforms, because that YouTubers are creating their own built-in audiences, and they're monitoring all of you. And whoever has large audiences, they're going to pluck you and put you on their major networks. Pat McAfee. So when SNY was able to get credit to John Macri also, who part of his role was to cover the Knicks. But when SNY started bringing CP the franchise on, when Max Kellerman listened to Chuck D to bring CP the franchise on, that was part of the sample that they needed. They wanted to see how many eyes that were on CP would watch Max Kellerman. That was their end. That was their foot in the door to get the eyes of the viewers that CP had back on ESPN. And little did Max Kellerman know that that was the beginning of the end for him. They used him as a case study to see would the number of eyes jump if they brought CP on a few times. How many of those Knicks followers that he got following him will watch? And that's a small sample size for ultimately what we're doing. All of those people they fired are in the millions. I guarantee you they're going to replace them with YouTube content creators. And they're gonna give them $2 or $3 million. CP gonna be a millionaire. And the young man works hard. The young man works hard. They're gonna make that. That man is gonna see a bag. He's gonna see a bag. But that's my theory. That is the reason. And it started with the New York Knicks fan spilling into the street. It started with the New York Knicks fan spilling into YouTube and taking their eyes off of ESPN. And it started with the New York Knicks fan content creators, nothing but Knicks. Knicks Fans TV, Knicks Film School, all those brothers who ultimately have birthed out all these other channels such as Knicks Deli. And it showed that the New York Knicks fan base is not only rabid, but we're organized, we're intelligent, we talk Knicks basketball, and we're loyal. CP, the franchise, will have a show. They're going to be plucking, and they're already scouring YouTube for new talent, a younger demographic that is in tune with all of those masses and eyes that are on YouTube. That's the reason for the purge at ESPN. They're going to keep a couple of the major figures, but that's also a reason why Stephen A. Smith and them get all those personalities to start a podcast. Stephen A. Smith tried to on YouTube. Y'all remember that? He said something real. He tried to give us the side eye. He said something like, "Oh, and y'all listen to YouTube. What's YouTube? People who didn't go to school for this. People who didn't all of this. That now he got a podcast. Now he's in the podcast game. Same people he tried to shade and get a side eye. Now he doing that. So that's why I'm saying the New York Knicks fans sparked the ESPN purge. Mark my words. Watch when they start pulling YouTubers from different fan bases and giving them shows. It's the same thing Cablevision did once they started losing subscribers and only our grandparents had cable subscriptions. They started creating apps so you could watch your favorite shows to try to target the 18 to 25 demographic, the 25 to 40 demographic. And they're going to do the same thing. ESPN is smart. Disney is smart. They're pivoting. And they're pivoting to podcasters and YouTube. They see that's where the eyes are. Those content creators are there. And they're going to find a way to stream and connect them so that they get them before the eyes of those former audiences. They're getting rid of the older fan base. They're targeting the younger fan base. Watch. I'm laughing. I saw Marcellus Wiley, like, we trying to figure it out. We don't know what's the reason. I got the answer. I'm the answer today, goddammit. And you heard it here first. You heard it here first. That's the answer.